My name is Peter Davison. I played the Fifth Doctor, and you're listening to the Fiveish Fangirls.
Hello everyone, Rachel here, bringing you a little extra squee. In this case, it is my recap of PopCon, Indy PopCon specifically, 2026. You will have to forgive any weird noise. I am in the car running errands with my co-pilot currently snoozing in the back seat, although you guys we haven't done an episode, a proper episode since, but yes, after years and years and years of talking about it and wishing and hoping and praying, and that song, you will be his, or in this case, he will be ours. Well, one of them is a he, but yeah, Chauncey and I finally got our corgis. So we've got two. we got them within 2 weeks of each other. It's a long story that's all the whole other thing that I could probably put up on Patreon probably. But yes, we currently have two corgis. We have a 2.5-year-old fluffy female named River. She came with a name, but yes, we are totally latching on to the whole River song vibes. She is very sassy and has hair that goes on for days, very much like River song is. We're totally latching onto that and making it her entire personality, whether she likes it or not. But we just got her not even 48 hours ago as I'm recording this, so she shouldn't really go out and go adventuring because she doesn't really know how to do that yet. She needs to learn how to use a leash and all that fun stuff. So, but I have Derby, who is we're not entirely sure how old he is because he's a rescue, and we don't really have any paperwork that gives like his date of birth, so just based on size and teeth and whatever things they use to try to figure how old a dog is. We figure he's about 7, so he's middle-aged, but he came from a home where he was somebody's pet for the longest time, so he's all up to snuff. He knows how to use a leash, he knows commands and all the fun things, so he is riding along with me, but he's in the back seat. It's also raining too, so if it starts raining harder, it might create noise. I'm so sorry, but PopCon, and then I went straight back to work. I had 2 medical appointments right in the middle of the week. We're so close to the end of the school year. We had AP testing going on, which added like a whole bunch of stuff to my plate, so it's been nutso. So I'm finally getting a chance to record this, and this is a super long rambling introduction. I am so sorry. For those that may be new, PopCon is a multi-fandom convention that was started in Indianapolis by people who live here, know the people here, and want to grow the community here. They don't want it to be another cash grab like some of those conventions out there, like the one that's coming up in a couple weeks. They know who they are. They're not even based out of Indiana. They're just a corporation. And so they wanted something that covered not just like your big celebrities and stuff. They want to, like I said, it's multi-fandom and not just in like different movies and TV shows, but like there's gaming. They've tried different things and to see what sticks and what people like. And this year was no different. This is the first show was in 2014. So this is their 13th show in Indy. Yeah, I mean, I've been to every PopCon event that they've held. They've been in Louisville twice. They've tried Fort Wayne once. And I've been to all those. I've been to every Indy show. Is my favorite convention. Even if they're they do a pretty good job about getting a good variety of celebrities. But there have been some years where there hasn't been a celebrity that like I really cared about meeting and getting an autograph or whatever. So, and I've still gone and had a good time because there's just always just so much to do. If you can't find something to entertain yourself, at least for a little bit of PopCon, you probably should have just stayed home and saved your money, maybe. Last year I stayed downtown just to save myself the hassle of driving. Not that I live that far away, but still. And unfortunately this year, that was not an option. This particular weekend for the state of Indiana and Indianapolis surrounding areas, it was just a jam-packed weekend. The Indiana Fever had their home opener that Saturday afternoon. There was the Grand Prix race over at the racetrack, although that's far enough away that it's not that big a deal. But still, that brings people into town who need hotel rooms. And the biggest thing was Morgan Wallen, who's a country artist, is on tour and did 2 back-to-back nights at Lucas Oil Stadium, which automatically it sucked up all of the hotel rooms, a lot of the parking too. The parking situation, not fun, not inexpensive either, depending on how much you're willing to walk. And so yeah, most hotels were sold out, and any that had any hotel rooms left were charging 2, 3, 4 times a night what they normally would. So yeah, there was no hope of getting a decently priced hotel room. So I just stayed at home and just drove like I have been doing years previous. So I ended up having to work that Friday in the morning and then left, did a half day, came downtown, got parking. I ended up parking at the parking garage right there on Washington Street that's actually for government workers. During the week, that's where they park. But I got lucky and they had opened up a side of it for public parking. And I just, paid whatever for so many hours. It's convenient. One, it's covered. 2, there are covered walkways that connect it to the convention center and a couple of the hotels, so that's nice. Especially because Friday it decided to rain. That'll come into play later. So I was still early for anything PopCon related going on. And since I left work before lunch, I was hungry. So I was like, I'm going to go get something to eat. So I walked a couple blocks over, unfortunately, Georgia Street, which is right off the fancy newer entrance, the new end of the convention center that got added on several years ago, is under construction, among other things, because they're putting a new hotel there. And so I had to walk a little bit out of my way, but I ended up going to the spaghetti factory and getting some food, which is nice. If you've never been to the spaghetti factory, if you like pasta, it's a winner. You get pasta and bread, and you get your choice of what they do is that they do like a three course, I'm doing air quotes, 3-course meal where you either get super salad, your entree, and then ice cream is dessert. So I got salad, I got my usual spaghetti. It's a spaghetti dish that doesn't use spaghetti sauce. What it does instead is it's drowned in butter, for one thing. And then this amazing, like, salty, crumbly cheese that is just like, no healthy nutritional value whatsoever, but I don't care. I was going to be doing some walking. I needed carbo load. And then I got you can either vanilla or their equivalent of Neapolitan ice cream. So that's what I got, and I had a book with me, so I was reading. It was early, they hadn't been open very long, so they weren't very busy, most of Friday. So that's what I got done eating. I went back over to the convention center, got my badge, and then it was time to do the thing. So I always like to go in and wander and try to get a idea, at least of the layout, at least where the specific things, like I went and figured out where the live podcast stage is, where the photo ops are. I look and see the celebrity line up to see where their tables are, that sort of thing. And then I think I started at the podcast stage, where Dawn and a couple the guys from the Established Facts were doing their first podcast of the day, which is The Stable, which is a wrestling podcast. So I spent most of just Friday just kind of wandering, seeing where stuff is, start making my way up and down the aisles of the vendors and all that fun stuff. And then I caught Brandon doing the kickoff podcast, so I caught part of that. And I kept Friday just kind of low key. I had been up since 5 a.m. because I did go to work before, so I was a little tired. I ended up going home actually before the podcast award, just because I was like, I don't want to, as much as I want to stay and catch that, I also didn't want to push myself too much, because it's really easy to push yourself too fast, too soon, and that's how you end up wearing yourself out, and that makes you susceptible to con crud, and just just feeling like crap by the time the weekend is over. And I'm experienced enough to know that that's no bueno, especially when you have to go back to work that Monday. So I just kind of wandered. I visited with people that I knew, and just went home, chilled, ready to hit the ground running early Saturday morning. That's exactly what we did. So got up Saturday morning and ended up driving downtown. I took the city streets, which helped a lot. Thankfully, I have multiple ways on how to get downtown from the south side that don't necessarily require the interstate, because the interstate going downtown, also construction central. It's just construction everywhere. It's our own season we have around here. And so I took city streets. I ended up stopping at Aldi's on the way in because I had some time. I was a little ahead of schedule, and stopped in Aldi's to grab some snacks. So gotta keep the snacks, gotta keep some snacks going just in case. And so I did that, and then parked again at the same parking garage, which that early in the morning, thankfully they were just doing a flat rate at $20, which is fairly reasonable actually, all things considering. And it was not raining, which is also good because it had rained the night before, and because of that, a lot of the people that were coming in to downtown to go to Morgan Wallen were cutting through the convention center, which I always find it funny when, Gen Con is the exception because Gen Con takes over like, the entire city, so you don't see a lot of overlap with Gen Con with other things unless you get like really outside of the several city blocks that Gen Con takes over. But something like PopCon, where it only takes part of the convention center. Sorry, I'm back on the highway and it's raining. When something like PopCon is in the convention center and it's only using part of it, sometimes there's another convention, usually something completely like diametrically the opposite end as far as like the clientele or the target attendees is compared to PopCon. We've had that in the past. We've had like construction, like contract worker convention. We've had like a women's like spiritual religious retreat. But this year we had a country music concert, 2 of them, and because all the Morgan Wallen people were trying to take refuge to get over to Lucas Oil and avoid as much rain as possible, they were kind of in the convention there. Yeah, and you could just tell these people were not local, or at least weren't the local types to actually go into the convention center, because they were so lost on trying to figure out how to get to Lucas Oil from where they were. So they were like convention volunteers, us goers, people that actually work for the convention center itself, like custodial and working like the food courts and stuff, like showing them where they needed to go to be able to get to Lucas Oil. And so much denim and cowboy boots. I don't think, I jokingly said in one of our chats, I don't think that the convention center has seen this much denim and cowboy boots since the last Red Dead Redemption video game was released. So that was fun. But yeah, from what I heard after the fact, a lot of those concert goers were not very friendly. They were quite rude. A lot of them had been pre-gaming a good chunk of the day and were several sheets to the wind before they even got to the concert, which probably did not help any. So thankfully I didn't really encounter anyone that was rude. I did point a few people in the right direction to get to where they were going, but still not my crowd, at least not anymore. Used to be way back in the day, but not anymore. So thankfully Saturday, much nicer weather-wise, and parking much nicer. Because when I came into town, came downtown Friday, the closer you were to Lucas Oil, the higher the pricing. Obviously, you're paying for the convenience. But there were places that were charging like $60 to park. And it's like, no, good gravy, no. Thankfully, those were not parking locations that were really convenient for me anyway. So I think I ended up paying $24 or something like that Friday, and then I paid $20 on Saturday and $20 again on Sunday. So much more reasonable and very convenient for me for where I needed to go, because that particular parking garage was the end of the part of the convention center that PopCon was using. So that worked out well. So yeah, got parked, got my crap together, and went and found the room that the guys from the Established Facts were going to do their Endless Dungeon, which is kind of their live role-playing game that they use as a fundraiser for Extra Life and Riley Children's Hospital. I also want to say maybe the Children's Miracle Network, but don't quote me on that. And what it is normally they would do it for like 8 hours, but in this case it was going to be 2 hours. And what they do is they have this map of this huge dungeon with so many twists and turns, and they have somebody pick a number, and that's where they're going to start. And then they get volunteers to be characters, and they're to play. And to make things easier, they just have those giant D20s that are inflatable. And one is for the players and the others for, like, the bad guys, the monsters, whoever it is they're up against, rolling against. And Don, Big Don, he is kind of the DM, but also like our narrator. And so you get your volunteers, they create their, they establish their characters base, because the guys from Established Facts are also part of Second Breakfast Improv, which obviously came out of Breakfast Anytime, which was the improv troupe that was established ages ago. So they've been doing improv for a long time. So there's a lot of improv involved too. And so we ended up with, and I just sat down because I knew I couldn't stay for the entire time, but what you can do is sometimes I'll ask for suggestions from the audience. Sometimes the audience can make things happen if they donate, which is how they do some of the fundraising. So if you're like, oh, I want to throw a wrench in this entire plan here, like here's $5, and they'd be like, no, they can't cast that spell because reasons, or whatever. So there were 4 players, and one of them was a lumberjack who could talk to trees. I remember that much. I've got some video. Who's a lumberjack that could talk to trees. And at one point they were fighting like this evil ballerina princess creature thing, and they needed to it was like his turn, and he could possibly deliver the winning blow to this evil ballerina princess, evil whatever. For some reason there's dancing, improv, and like just he rolled, they rolled, and he got a winning roll, and so right before he delivers his finishing blow to this adversary, he's like, for the trees! Yeah, that's very funny. So that was a funny thing. For the trees! That kind of, a thing. So they seem to be having a lot of fun. I wish I could have stayed for the entire thing, but I wanted to get, there were so many things where it's like, I need to be able to, like, I need a time turner, or the TARDIS, or I need to clone myself, or something, because there were so many good things going on that were happening all at the same time. It's like, I can't be in 12 places at once. So you just have to prioritize, unfortunately. And sometimes you gotta go with your gut. Also, so I left the never-ending dungeon and went over to the podcast stage because friend of the show, Russell McGee, fellow Whovian, and does some work for Big Finish, actually. He was doing a live recording with Brandon on the podcast stage, talking about how during the pandemic, because he works for IU as his day job, and during the pandemic, we realized that, you know, things were going to kind of stay the way they were for a while. He had some time on his hands. He was like, I'm going to go digging through the IU media archives, because IU's got this extensive archive of media-related stuff. You know, it's like some of it's very obvious, you know, scripts, recordings, stills, photos, that sort of thing. A couple of years ago, actually, Glenn Close donated a bunch of her movie screen use costumes to the archive, including her costumes from the Dalmatians movies, among other things. So yeah, you got stuff like some Glenn Close's costumes, but what he found is film that was from a movie called Cat Creeps, which may not, you know, unless you're kind of a niche cinephile, that probably is like, okay, that sounds like a crappy B movie or something. Which, based on the plot, it may kind of have been, but it's actually a Universal film from 1930, and it predates the more popular and recognizable Universal classic monsters like Dracula and Frankenstein. So it's actually Universal's first sound horror, like, monster creature film. It's not the entire thing, but there's enough there that that they could identify it, and actually there's been a couple of versions since then. It's been remade a few times, but this version had not been seen by the public since 1937, which is pretty amazing. He had some images from some of the frames made so that people could see those. Because obviously the film, very old and fragile, and yeah, there's plans, things to be that they are going to do with it, but he didn't want to necessarily, you know, tip the hand. There's a book coming as well that he didn't want to, you know, give away everything that's in the book as well. He's not writing the book, it's a friend of his. So, but you'll be able to listen to that entire conversation when Brandon puts it out in his feed for the Brandon Peters show, probably in a couple weeks. Whenever I see it pop up, I will, you know, share it, show the link. That was really cool, and he and Russell were talking about the Doctor Who documentary that they're working on. They're making a documentary focusing on the fandom as it is in the United States. And they've been working on that for quite a while. Their plan is to have it, Brandon said they're about 60-70% done. They have plans to go to Long Island Who in August to shoot some stuff. They've been talking to fans and some of the stars, past and present of Doctor Who, and they want to do some more fan-related interviews and that sort of thing. So that's going to be kind of their focus to finish up the entire thing. And the plan is to have it completed and ready to debut in 2028 in time for Doctor Who's 65th anniversary and the 30th anniversary of Big Finish. So that's pretty cool. I'm really excited to see how that turns out. I may or may not be involved at some point in the future. So I may have to have Russell on to talk about both the documentary and the discovery of cat creeps, because I think it's just really cool. As Doctor Who fans, we know a lot about lost media, unfortunately. That's a topic near and dear to us Whovians, lost media. Lost footage, lost film. So there's that. So that was cool, and it was cool to be able to check in with Russell. I haven't seen him since PopCon last year, I think. So that was cool. And then I did some shopping. I ended up buying. There's this company called The Legging Lass. I remember I'll put a link to their socials in the show notes. But they make fandom clothing that's, the dresses and some of the skirts have a more feminine cut to them, somebody with maybe some curves, but really in the end, clothing has no gender, so whoever wants to wear it can wear it. These guys were, the guys working the booth were, and but I ended up buying a pair of pants from them with this Lord of the Rings Middle Earth print. They said that they work with licensing and artists to come up with these prints that they can have put on the fabric they use for their stuff. And oh my god, they had some amazing prints, and they cover a lot of fandoms too. But their big selling point is almost everything that they sell has pockets. And I'm like, sold. Let me decide what I want. So I ended up buying these pair of pants that are they're kind of like yoga pants, but they're not that form-fitting. They're probably closer to pajama pants. All the fabric they use for everything is so soft. Oh my god, so soft. So I ended up buying these pants, lounge pants, I guess, with this Lord of the Rings print to it, and then I bought a skirt. It's actually a skirt that's got a Marvel, Avengers type print on it. So that's it. Those are exciting. I ended up wearing the pants that Sunday, the next day. Oh, bye. So yeah. That's cool. I'm buying some more stuff from them. Maybe not necessarily online, although they just put out a small batch of pet-sized clothing, and they said if it sells well, then they'll have more, and probably have some on hand at conventions going forward. I'm like, yes, absolutely. My doggos need nerdy clothing. And so there's that, and okay, this is a hashtag first world problem. I am well aware first of all, I'm aware that I'm very fortunate to be able to go to these conventions, be able to afford to go and spend the entire weekend there and, you know, hang out with friends and shop and meet celebrities and all that fun stuff. So, I totally understand my privilege. And I also understand what I'm about to say is really a hashtag first world problem. I am all for, obviously, you know, as a podcaster with our show, we tend to just talk about things that we like. Even if it's not majority we all like, at least one of us brings something to the table like, I love this thing, this show, this movie, whatever, you know, and we'll talk about it. So, you know, if you got a thing that you're super excited about and you're a creative person and you want to create things to sell, to celebrate your love of whatever thing is, and you think that there are going to be other people that love that thing too and want to buy from you, you know, it's all about supply and demand. It's a basic principle of capitalism. I understand that. However, at the moment, or maybe it was just this particular moment in time, there were so many vendors, very talented people. You know, I saw some really well-made stuff, some very creative stuff, some great art, and I like the style of it. But there is so much anime and other, you know, Korean manga related, you know, stuff that is so not my thing. You know, obviously K-pop Demon Hunters being an exception. There's a lot of K-pop Demon Hunters. Totally down with that. But yeah, there's so much. And I recognize some of it. Like, I recognize, like, One Piece and, you know, obviously Pokemon. I don't know, Pokemon is so ubiquitous now, just kind of across the pond, that yes, it is a Japanese thing, but I don't necessarily consider it, you know, strictly Japanese. You know, I recognize that it's Japanese in origin, but at the same time, it's like, you know, like I said, it's so ubiquitous in just world culture. You know, show Pokemon to somebody in a random country, they're probably going to be like, oh yeah, it's a Pokemon. Especially the well-recognizable ones, like Pikachu and stuff. So, but there's just so much merchandise and art and other things that were obviously inspired by someone's love of various anime and manga and whatever, and it's like I like your product, I like your style of art, but you're using characters that I don't care about. It was like there were several times where I was like, I would give you money if you had something for me. Meanwhile, a lot of them had just had, like, you know, a whole bunch of people crowded around their booth, like, all day, every day. And it's like, I get that. There's a fandom there, and it's a very solid fandom, and there's money to be made there. But I just felt kind of left out in a way. Like, I have money to spend, and you don't have anything for me to buy that I would like to buy. So, because that is absolutely a hashtag first world problem. That, oh my god, I can't spend, you know, my hard-earned money because there's just too much anime everywhere. It's like, yeah, no. Yeah, that's just money that I can spend elsewhere, I guess. But it was something I observed more than anything. It was an observation. It just seemed like there was just a lot of anime-related vendors. A lot of Asian-inspired. There were several vendors where they were selling, like, collectibles and clothing and, you know, accessories and stuff that were Asian-inspired, you know, from one thing to another. So, you know what? Get your bag. Make that money. You know, I'm all for it. And, you know, I'll come across, you know, like I said, I bought the pants and the skirt from the Liking Glass. You know, if I could have justified spending more, I probably would have. But I was trying to pace myself. I didn't want to spend all my money all at once. And then I realized it really wasn't going to be a problem. And then when I finally got back to the Liking Glass, the couple of dresses that had caught my eye were sold. So, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, that was just an observation that I had. So, at this particular event. So I will say the layout was very nice. Somebody posted on the Facebook group after the fact, like, were there less vendors this year? And Carl popped up. He's like, no, it was pretty much the same number within, like, you know, a margin of like 5 booths. It was just the way the layout was, that they were able to utilize the space this year. There was just a lot of breathing room, which was actually very nice. So you never really felt cramped like you can do sometimes. So I like that. So yeah. And then I ended up going to get lunch. And I went to Tom's Watch Bar, which is, again, slightly off of Georgia Street. Again, taking the detour. And I ate at Tom's last year. Was it during PopCon or during Gen Con? I don't remember. I ate there once last year. And it just so happened that Inter Milan was playing. And I figured if there was a chance that I was going to be able to see some of it, it would be there, because that's kind of their thing, is they've got lots of screens on all the show sports. So I did, so I went over and just got a seat at the bar, which is nice because they have outlets right there, so I can plug in my phone. They've got Wi-Fi, which is also good. They weren't showing, well, they were showing soccer. They were showing the Europa League, or the English League, and along with a bunch of other sports too. But again, they've got Wi-Fi, and I can plug my phone in, so I don't have to worry about killing the battery. And I've got the Paramount Plus app, so I just ended up pulling it up on my phone and watching it while I drank my drink and had my food, and Inter won, which is always good. And actually, the English soccer ended up getting pushed off the screens because the Fever game was starting. Because, like I said, the Fever had their home opener that Saturday afternoon, which was really wild to be watching it, knowing that it was occurring like less than less, maybe at max, like a half a dozen blocks away from me. It's always one thing when you're watching something live, knowing that it's kind of happening, it's kind of near you. But this was just like, for some reason, it just really struck me as odd because of how close it was happening. So they were showing, because it was a home open, they were showing some of the notable faces that were in the seats, including Tamika Catchings, former Fever player, MVP, GOAT that she is, and a couple of the Pacer players. I think Tyrese Halliburton was there, and then David Letterman, of all people, was there. Which, I mean, the guy went to school in Muncie, He's from Indiana, so his mom still lives here, or at least did. So not that unusual. Dave's retired. He can do whatever the heck he wants. Even if he does kind of look like a really skinny Santa Claus with that beard of his. So yeah, the Fever game in front of me, Inter Milan on my phone, having a afternoon adult beverage and a food stop to get away from the crowds and sit down for a little bit, which was nice. Eventually, I did go back so that I could go catch Brandon doing dated Trivial Pursuit, which he normally does with Jessica Alsman of the Bob and Tom Show, but Jessica was not able to make it. She just had a baby earlier this year, so I don't know if that had anything to do with it, that she just couldn't, or wasn't able to come with the baby or whatever. Who knows? Things change when you have kids, human and otherwise. And but thankfully he had someone who was able to step in and fill Jessica's spot for this year. And they had 4 different copies of Trivial Pursuit for people to pick from. He had the OG, which is like first edition of the OG Trivial Pursuit. They had a DVD, the cards that actually go with like the DVD version, because they're not regularly playing Trivial Pursuit, they're just using the cards as trivia material. They had one that was strictly for film, and then one that was strictly for Star Wars. So what they do is they just, get Patches, Patrick, KJ's husband, from the KJ Today show, KJ's Kind of Nerdy Girls, and PerCon, among other things. Her husband, Patrick, plays MC whenever Brandon does this. He walks around and he's like, "Hey, you want to play?" Puts a microphone in their face, and Patches is really good at it. But the person picks a version of Trivial Pursuit, and then they pick a category from within the categories of that version, and then they ask the question, and usually they do a pretty good job of making sure that the person wins, giving lots of wink wink nudge nudge type hints, and but the prizes are usually fandom related, but it tends to be very random items that Brandon either has purged from his own collection or has gotten like at a thrift store or whatever. Although also this year PerCon donated some kitty ear headbands as a prize as well. So everybody that won got a pair of kitty ear headbands, and then got to get a random prize. And it's always fun. It's always fun to see people, really stretch their brain to make sure that they win. Even with the hints, sometimes people are like, I don't know. We're all over here like whispering to them, like, yeah. So that's a lot of fun. And then I went to, did I go to improv workshop on Saturday? Or did I do that Sunday? No, I did that Saturday. So, again, Big Don, Josh, some other crew hosted a improv workshop. So they did one each day. And I've watched before. I've sat and watched, but this time I actually participated, which was a lot of fun. Yeah, I did do it Saturday because one of the games I ended up referencing the fact that I'd watched soccer earlier. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's fun to try to get out of your comfort zone. It's fun to just be silly, and just kind of be a little woohoo. It was a lot of fun. Glad I joined in this time. So we had a good crowd too, good sized crowd, and that was a lot of fun. And before I knew it, I was ready to go home again. Again, I would have stayed for the cosplay contest, but I knew I still had to do one more full day, and my poor feet were kind of done at this point. Y'all know that I've been having problems with my feet, so don't necessarily overdo it when I gotta be on my feet for another day, kind of foolish day. So yeah, I going home, chilling, and would hit the ground running one more time for Sunday, but at the moment I'm reaching my current destination, so we are going to stop here and return with Sunday, which includes meeting Sean Astin. From Hollywood classics to wait, that one? We're watching every Best Picture winner. Join us for laughs, debates, and plenty of award season hot takes. Gold Standard, the Oscars podcast. Listen now. All right. Time to finish up our story about PopCon 2026. My co-pilot has moved up to the front seat because I bought a bunch of stuff that required folding down the back seat. Ooh, excuse me. But he is perfectly content to hang out here in the front too. Yeah. You're such a good boy. Yes, you are. Alright. So, Sunday of PopCon. While the last day kind of is still, the busy day. Once again, parked in the same parking garage. But this time, I would not be spending all of PopCon solo, because a certain Sasquatch-sized husband was going to be joining me. So, spent the morning watching some more live podcasting, and I also went and got my map of Middle Earth assigned by Sean Astin, Samwise Gamgee. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Of course, I've already gotten some folks from the Tolkien film adaptations. Of course, we had Elijah Wood and Andy Serkis at PopCon a couple years ago. That was a lot of fun. And then I also gotten Faramir. I got his at Cincinnati Comic Expo a few years ago. And of course, my very first Lord of the Rings related autograph was from Bernard Hill, King Theoden himself. Thankfully, I got that before he passed away a few years ago. So, look at quite a little. Oh yes, and Sauron. We also had Sauron at PopCon as well. So, quite the little collection going. For the most part, people have been signing places on the map where their character is associated with. So, like, you know, Theoden, he signed his name near Rohan / Helm's Deep. Obviously, Saruman, Giant Eyeball, Mount Doom, take your pick. Andy wrote near... Where did Andy... He wrote on the opposite side of Elijah. Like, Elijah wrote, like, over in, like, the ocean. But then Andy wrote on the other side, so when I unrolled it, and some of the people in line behind me are like, oh, that's a good idea to get that signed. Yeah, I told Sean, I said, you can sign it wherever you want. It's like Elijah's here, Andy's here. You know, obviously those three spent a lot of time together, both as actors and as characters in the trilogy. But Sean ended up signing near Elijah, which, yeah, that's cool. But he was busy looking at the map, seeing where everything was laid out. He's like, 25 years and I've never really looked at, like, where everything is. And he was like, we went there and we went there. He's like, the Shire is here. And he's like, where's that? And it took several minutes to pour over my map and look at where things were, which I thought was pretty cool. Then I had to move on, obviously. Went and I went over to PopCon to get a better look at things and watch some of the stuff happening there. It's funny. KJ is running herself ragged between doing PopCon and then also doing other media stuff, and occasionally she does moderate some of the celebrity panels. So she was just non-stop the entire weekend. But at one point, she had, I can't remember the guy's name, and I even talked to him too. I'll have to look it up. But they had one of the things that you could see and potentially participate in, which is something else I had last year, is the fighting robots. If you've ever seen, stuff like that on TV. They even have a version of it in Big Hero 6. But one of his best known builds is a robot that kind of looks like a cat. It kind of looks like it could have walked out of Big Hero 6, to be honest with you. So of course KJ was all like, "Ooh, it's a type of cat. It may be a robot cat-ish, but it's still a cat." So he was explaining how he, has gone through the different iterations, his technology has changed, and how with 3D printing and all of that fun stuff and advancements in like the robotics and that sort of thing. And then he gave KJ the opportunity to drive it, so she decided to go from the PopCon stage and drive it over to the other side of the area that PopCon was using, where they had the kitten therapy tent. So they had kittens that are available up for adoption. But you could go into like this little tent thing and just kind of sit for a little bit and play with some cute kittens. You ate all the treats, honey. He still smells the treats that were in my cup holder. He thinks there's still treats there. It's like, no, you're just smelling it. The residual smell. It's okay, I promise. Corey's very food motivated. He went and got his nails cut trimmed, so he was a very good boy. So he got a good number of treats when we got in the car. So yeah, KJ thought it would be fun to drive this, this battle bot that kind of looks like a cat over to where the kitten therapy tent was, just for fun, just to see how well she could drive it. And a few of us followed her and watched. I got the whole thing in a time lapse, so it sped it up. But we had a returning guest, another returning guest of PopCon, which is Dixie the praying dog. And Dixie's been at PopCon a few times, and Dixie was not having it. It's like, it didn't matter that it wasn't a real actual cat. Dixie was not having this thing drive around. She's there because she rides around in like a kid's like the Jeep, like the kid size Jeep that the kids can drive, air quotes drive, but her owner handler does the driving for her, but she rides around in it. So she's like, no, I'm the animal with the electronics or whatever. So Dixie was not having it. But it was still funny. And then Chauncey showed up. He got there in time for us to do our photo op with Sean. And we stood in line and we're waiting our turn, processing the cattle like they do with these photo ops for the most part. We were just standing there chatting and chilling and whatever. We got our picture with Sean. It was our turn, and they're like, okay, you step on up. And Sean was like, oh, we got a good team here. I was like, oh, yes, we are. Thank you. It's so funny. It's so funny. You've got Chauncey on one side, me on the other. If I had been standing up straight, I probably would have been, I think I'm just a little bit taller than Sean. Maybe. I think we're pretty close to the same height. And then you got Chauncey. So look, we both look like hobbits compared to him. And he looks like he should be an Orcai or something. Like the big, bad, leader of the orcs or something, because he's so tall. That was funny. But both the map and the photo are back up on our wall, so we got a nice little Lord of the Rings collection starting with the autographs on the map, and then a couple of photos with some of the cast. So that was cool. And then Chauncey and I wandered over to the podcast stage because Brandon wanted to see him and catch up, and so he and Brandon chatted for a little bit, and I was just like, ha 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 ha. I was like, good, I don't have to talk for a little bit. I could just stand here and smile and nod. Because I was getting tired. I was really getting tired. So I was like, well, I'm getting hungry. This was Mother's Day. That was the other thing, because there were a few people that commented about how light the crowds were for the weekend, and a lot was going on downtown that had people going other places. It was also Mother's Day weekend, and it also means that is graduation weekend for a lot of the universities. IU's graduation had been the day before, and usually the campus formerly known as IUPY, actual Mother's Day was always our graduation, and it was at the convention center. But since the change from IUPY to University or IU University Indianapolis, I don't know if they had it the day before. Well, no, because they didn't have it the day before, because we were there the entire weekend. They didn't have it that weekend. So I don't know if they changed locations or if they changed the weekend. I have no idea. But I know that IU Bloomington's graduation had been the day before, because one of my coworkers, her daughter, was graduating. So yeah. So that, you know, puts a crinkle in potential plans for. It's also prom for a lot of places. My work, our school's prom was that Saturday night. So yeah, there's just it was not the most ideal weekend. All things considering, you know, some of that stuff is already locked in place, and it is what it is. The convention center does not want to give either PopCon or Indiana Comic Con the opportunity to just pick a weekend and lock it in for the future like they do with Gen Con. So you're kind of stuck in the hierarchy of who gets to pick and block, you know, use of the convention center. And unfortunately the comic conventions and PopCon are lower on the priority when it comes to being like, okay, it's your turn. Whatever, it is what it is. And so yeah, PopCon next year is actually going to be end of March, which is, I believe, Easter weekend. So I mean, as long as something like Morgan Wallen doesn't come into town again, we should be fine, I hope. I mean, I'm gonna go regardless. Because, you know, it would take something major for me to not go to PopCon. Sorry, my purchases are rattling back in the back of the car, if you can hear that. But for the most part, yeah, everybody seemed happy. I did talk to one vendor that I did end up buying a t-shirt from, that, you know, they came all the way from the Carolinas, and they were like, you know, this is our first time here, but everyone was so nice, you know, talking about how friendly everybody was, and they asked me, you know, like, where's a good place to eat before they, you know, they head home, and that sort of thing. So that was nice. I really only heard like one vendor complain and didn't think that the weekend was gonna work out for them financially. But, you know, that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes, I guess. So yeah, but I was getting hungry, and Chauncey's like, well, let's go to something to eat. And so I was going to take him to my favorite hole in the wall that I usually go to during Gen Con, that is there kind of ish near the convention center. It's on the other side of the Westin. But they were closed, which, I mean, it does say closed on Sundays except for game days and special events, and apparently, I guess, PopCon is not a big enough special event for them to be open. And Morgan Wallen was done, so there you go. So we ended up eating inside the restaurant, inside the Westin. It's funny because we took the walkway, one of the walkways that connects the convention center to the Westin, and when we got to the ground floor of the Westin, we were walking one way, and actually Patrick Warburton was going the other way with like one of his people. I think he was headed to the airport to go to home, I hope. Hopefully he had a chance to go home and visit his family and friends and stuff before he went off to somewhere else. So yeah, we ended up eating in the restaurant in the West. It ended up being really good, actually. All things considering, you know, it was a bit of a pick some place on the fly kind of type thing. So it's okay, buddy. No, we're not turning. I know, there's a lot of noise, and so it was nice to sit down and put my feet up, because at that point my feet were they were tired, they were getting swollen. I had my Birkenstocks on. I was wearing the Lord of the Rings pants that I just bought. from the Looking Glass, and then I had Lord of the Rings like cropped lightweight hoodie sweatshirt type thing that I bought at Galaxy Con like 2-3 cons ago, that it's embroidered and it's all Lord of the Rings themed. So yeah, I'm a Lord of the Rings gear on, what little I have, and but I have my Birkenstocks on, so I can take them off and let my feet breathe. Good old Birkenstocks. Then Chauncey was nice enough to take some of the bulkier things home, like my poster, and he went home to take care of some things, and then I stayed for a little while longer. Got to watch Brandon do poorly described movies, which is always fun to watch. I actually knew some of them. Not that I played. It feels kind of weird for you know, if I was like, I want to play. It's one thing to do the improv workshop, it's another to be like, I'm going to play this game that I've seen I don't know how many times before, and I know the people that are conducting the, you know, the game. I'm like, I don't want people to think it's like rigged or something, because I just happen to know who they are and are friends with them. So, plus it's just fun to watch. I don't mind being a spectator. But yeah, that's kind of how Brady wraps up the podcast stage, is with the poorly described movies game. You know, and then I swung by the Established Facts guys' booth table to see how things were going. They'd already done their big raffle giveaway, but now they were giving away smaller prizes to the lucky folks who stuck around. And I was hoping to find out if they had a grand total as far as their fundraising, but they didn't have one at that point. So but I know it was at least $1,000, because before they even got there, they had already raised $1,000. And I have no idea how much they raised during the Endless Dungeon and the, you know, all the other fundraising stuff that they do. So I'll have to check and see if maybe they post on social media or something on how much they raised. I know the Circle City Ghostbusters posted how much they ended up raising. But yeah. So, and at that point I was like, I'm tired and my feet hurt and I'm gonna go home. And that's exactly what I did. So, fairly calm, chill PopCon weekend. I didn't get to do, like I said, there was oftentimes where stuff was just like, you know, double book, triple book, right, all at the same time. Like, I can't be in all these places at once. But you also listen to your body too. You know, you guys have heard my recaps, especially like my first few years ago into Gen Con. Oh my god, I about killed myself just trying to do anything and everything all at the same time, and it was just like, yeah, not possible. It's not possible, not without completely destroying yourself. So, you know, thankfully at least with PopCon, you know, I know what I'm missing for the most part. I would have liked to have gone to Sean Astin's panel, but it just didn't work out that way. I would have liked to have gone to Patrick Warburton's panel too, and it just did not work out. So it is what it is, but you know, I still had fun. It's always good to catch up with folks that I don't get to see that often. I know there's a few people I missed that were there, but you know, I have other opportunities to possibly see them again at other events. Thankfully, the Venn diagram of my friends and acquaintances and the things that they're into overlap quite a bit, but it's almost a circle. But that's it really for PopCon, Indy PopCon 2026, and the conventions at the moment. I will be at In Conjunction in July, not the first weekend of July, but second weekend of July. They did have to shift because of extenuating circumstances, but In Conjunction is still happening. I will have a table. I've already confirmed that. I need to update my panel slides so that they are good to go for this year, but for the most part we should be good to go for In Conjunction. So all good in the hood. So of course, if any of our listeners managed to we're also at PopCon and want to give their 2 cents, you can always email us fiveishfangirls@gmail.com, or you can go to our website, which is thefiveishfangirls.com, where you can connect with all of our podcast related social media accounts and our individual ones as well, along with links to our Doctor Who Goodreads book club and ways you can financially support us and all the fun things that you do on the interwebs these days. So hopefully I didn't ramble too much. Actually, I probably rambled a whole lot. Editing me is going to be like, oh my god, Rachel, shut up, get to the point. But that's a problem for editing me. This me is going to sign, well, I should say this me and Derpy boy, yes, the Derpy boy, the Derpster, yeah, me and Derby are going to sign off for this week. Bye guys. Thank you, our Fiveish fam, for joining us on this week's geeky journey. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Stay connected with us on our website, thefiveishfangirls.com, and follow us on most social media with @FiveishFangirls. Plus, check out our nonprofit, Fangirls Give Back, to see how we're making a positive impact in our community. Until next time, stay nerdy and let the squee continue.